Hello, everybody. My name is Drew Dosek, and welcome to Trading the Close. Guys, we saw some nasty selling today. Now, it wasn't the end of the road. This isn't the end of any sort of potential rally and upside, and we're not going to brand new all-time lows. But this is actually the start, the beginning of a little bit of a turn down. Now, will we get our 5-10% drawback now? Who knows? But one thing that's reminded me, we've got a lot of stuff that's up in the air, right? We got geopolitical things that are up in the air. What way is the Ukraine, Russia conflict going to go? Are we going to end up having European and U.S. troops now on the ground? Plus, we've got the Jerome Powell annual symposium on Friday with his speech. Will he come across hawkish? I bet of a lot of investors that are heavily invested in these big high flyer names like Nvidia, Palantir, GEV, etc. Those investors are likely going ahead, hitting that take profit button. Makes sense. We're extended. We're high up on the charts. Now we're coming into an area of taking profit. All technical. This is okay. That doesn't mean the whole charts and everything's going to zero for now, at least. But let's check out and see what happened in the market summary board. And also as a reminder, tomorrow we do have the Fed minutes being released at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. All right, so into the market summary board we go. Dow Jones down 0.05%. Nasdaq, pretty decent fall here, down 1.46%. S&P 500 now down 0.61%. U.S. oil down 1.15%. Gold down 0.5%. And Bitcoin seeing a steep fall right here, down 2.6% or $3,000 on the day. All right, so let's jump into the S&P 500 heat map and really see where everything laid out today. We see, as I've said, the high flyers are really taking a hit, minus Apple, right? But Apple was trailing some of these other stocks and big boys, making all brand new all-time highs. So we've got Nvidia falling down 3.44%, AVGO down 3.77%, AMD down 5.53%, Google down 1%, Meta down 2.17%, Microsoft down 1.5%, Oracle down 5.95%. Big names taking hits, but then you look over here on this side of the screen, and if you had blinders on and you're only looking over here, it's just an okay day. You know, it's we've got some greens, we've got a little bit of reds, but you really could be fooled, and that's just really it boils down to a nutshell. The weighting and market cap weighting in the S&P 500 with these big stocks, these humongous companies, really control the flow for where the value is on the S&P 500. So let's jump into that and take a look at what's going on. All right, so let's go to the daily time frame. And remember, over the last couple of weeks, we've really been talking about these two parallel channels that are highlighted for you here on the chart. And you see that price action was trying to get above this larger parallel channel. We really had price getting squeezed in here. And then now we since have come right back down into this bigger parallel. So support areas I'm watching are down here, 6146 and 6051. We will need some continuation selling likely tomorrow for these targets to be hit. But you notice too, on this way up, we really didn't consolidate right here. Our last consolidation was right here in this area. So if we do sell, we'll likely pause right here around 62.86, then continue selling down to the 61.46 level on the charts. Remarkable stuff. And then also, plus guys, if you had purchased the Mastering the Overnight Trade, the sleeper hold, we sent out a notification to all of the people that did purchase this, because right here on the chart, we had a sleeper hold set up right there, and we have price coming in as that pattern predicts. We knew this was going to happen. It was just a matter of time, and really a matter of this inclining parallel holding up price as long as it did. Because for the longest time in the markets, most recently, bad news was good news. And so almost any news flooding the market was a reason to start buying stocks. Well, that is starting to change, and reality is starting to set in a little bit more. We'll see tomorrow if we have a confirming move down, which will really put the screws on the buyers in the market. So, all right, so let's go back to the full screen and the QQQ. You see the QQQ did fall down nicely today. We haven't quite yet tagged this next level of support at 567 and 75 cents. We could very well gap over that tomorrow. So there's two scenarios. We can either gap over or maybe start chopping right along the top at the open, in essence consolidating and then breaking through. But ultimately, I see support down here at 539.19 for any continued selling pressure on the Qs. Next up, we've got the SMH. Now, the SMH, as you see here, had a beautiful drop right here at the bottom end of this parallel channel. Now, we did highlight this the other day, how we were trailing on the bottom end of this parallel channel, and we were doing so for quite a while, but then ultimately got rejected. And notice too, whenever you're consolidating underneath a level, it usually implies that we're going to be moving up. But we did come from this extended area, from the parallel, and then we started our consolidation, in essence, of bear flags. There was really conflicting signals. Will we break up or will we break down? But clearly, getting rejected over and over and over again led to this sell that we're seeing here, with price now on SMH closing at the lows of the day. Extremely incredible sell there on SMH. If we see here, support going to be at 271.62. Now, keep in mind, the first support levels can get blown through pretty well. However, since the markets have rallied so much, you're going to have a lot of buy the dippers sitting on the sidelines waiting to get back into the markets. And that's going to be the area that they'll likely target, 271.62. All right, next up, the IWM. The IWM, as you see here, we have had another down day, but it's not as steep as what we saw in the SMH, and it's not as steep as what was going on in the Qs, down 0.77%, ultimately still maintaining in this consolidation range right here. This was a move up and then a move down in consolidation. This is a minor bear flag currently on the chart. We'll see for bulls, we need to get price above 229.30. That would then change the pattern into the direction of the IWM. If we do continue to hang out here, we're likely coming down to the support at 218.33. All right, guys, let's get into Bitcoin. Let's check out a couple different things. First, let me show you guys the weekly time frame. All right, check this out. What do we have here and what do we have here? We've got two weekly topping tails on the charts. You guys, I love technical analysis. All right. So we had two, back to the weekly, and I'm bringing this up here too, just to explain. So we've got bullish consolidation at the top of the charts, right? We have two weekly topping tails. Bullish consolidation at the top of the charts. What usually happens? It generally fails. Okay. So we have a pattern that's going to say it's likely going to fail. Then you throw in two weekly topping tails with extreme bearish sentiment on that particular cryptocurrency. Well, then it's almost guaranteed we're going to be going down on Bitcoin. Now, it's been amazing. They did reach brand new all-time highs last week. However, this week's different, and the patterns are starting to play out. Okay, so we'll zoom back in and then get into the daily time frame. I've been talking about this for a while. We had a great breakout from an inverse head and shoulders pattern right here on Bitcoin. It hit its measured move on the way up. Now it needs to retrace down here. That support level will be roughly about 107 and 224. There will also be minor support right here on the 50% area of the parallel. Could be buy the dippers accumulating there just under $112,000, but be watching down here at 107 once this pattern completes itself, as in essence goes full circle, breaking out to coming back and retracing the trend line in which it broke. All right, next up, we've got gold. Gold, as you see here, did also have another down day. It kind of was implying was going to do so off of this hit from the declining trend line, pullback and consolidation. Next target for any minor support is going to be here at $3,300. Since we are getting towards the end of this wedge, I'm anticipating either a breakdown or up because we're running out of time for gold to chop around in this area. So be watching 3304 as that is the closest area to break at the current moment. Now, silver also had a down day today. You can see price action moved lower here on the charts, down to $37.32. Support area, it will be minor since it was already tagged, is at 36.58, followed by 34.86. And should selling really pick up steam, I really like this inclining trend line. Had it on the chart for quite a while, guys. You can see it was breached right here in April, but that inclining trend line should be some great support for silver, roughly around $33.25. Next up, U.S. oil. U.S. oil also did have a down day today, but you notice it's still hanging on to this declining trend line at the moment. We've got a bounce off of it here on August 13th. Then we got another bounce here on August 18th yesterday, and then price now has started to go down underneath it. Again, the more times you start hitting a trend line, the weaker it becomes, and now price is starting to go down beneath. Ultimately, my target where I was waiting for price on oil to get down to is this declining trend line at $59. All right, next up, Nat Gas. And you see here, Nat Gas also big sell candle. You know, the market today, they were just giving out red candles left and right. Everybody's getting a red candle. Everybody's getting a red candle except for Intel. They still remain green today, as you saw a lot of other small company stocks, but a lot of red was out there on the board, including Nat Gas. Now, Nat Gas, the benefit of it in the near term was getting back above this declining trend line. Today wiped that out. We'll have to see tomorrow. Will it be a confirming move back down? Will we push down lower? Ultimately, if we do, the support level is $2.55. Been talking about that for quite some time now on Nat Gas. Yeah, all right, next up in the 10-year. The 10-year really didn't do too much today, still chopping around in this range. Ultimately, though, why I bring it up, it's still bearish consolidation on the chart, implying a move down here to 4.095%. Keep that on the radar in the near future, especially on Friday, depending upon what Jerome Powell discusses. We could be moving a lot on the 10-year, especially at the end of the week. Next up, Intel, one of the ones receiving a green candle today. Beautiful move up on this. Now, Intel did also have news that this administration likely is going to be investing in about 10% of the company into Intel. So they're looking to backstop Intel. In essence, this is a major chip producer and manufacturer in the United States. So they're wanting to make sure, or at least the news is stating that they're wanting to at least make sure that continues to be the case and invest in this company. So investors have responded and pushed this stock up higher. It all culminated today when price pierced this inclining trend line right here and has since gotten rejected. Post-market now trading under where it closed, just by a few pennies. One thing, though, I want to highlight for the longer-term investor, this is an inverse head and shoulders pattern with a measured move up here at $28.48. Any pullbacks on Intel, especially down here, that was the money pullback for you to make money on this big pop, but any pullbacks still have a chance to tag that measured move of 28.48. And if it does so, notice we got gap fill not far beyond that occurred back here from August of 2024. So I see that happening in the future. When that happens is TBD. It's going to be found out at a later date. Next up, we've got Palantir. Look at this nasty sell on Palantir's chart today. This beautiful rounded top, and all I have are trend lines. And I did that for a reason, because you can see this is going to be having plunged through this area of support. The next area of support is going to be down here at 152.39. Notice we're going to have to go through gap fills. Already went through gap fill today. And then this inclining trend line will likely be the first area catching support on this chart of Palantir. Again, this is one of the high flyers. So there's going to be buy the dippers. So you can anticipate small bounces with the falls that occur on Palantir. Ultimately, though, I do anticipate price to come down to this longer term inclining trend line, currently right around 136.12. Be watching for that on Palantir over the coming days. Now, keep in mind, we could have small bounces here, but then the selling pressure, say we consolidate right on this trend line, creating a bear flag, and then breaking through to go down to the next trend line of support at 136.12. Next up, Nvidia. Now, guys, check this out too. All right, so I have the weekly chart here on Nvidia. There's a few things I want to explain about Nvidia. Now, everybody knows Nvidia. It's one of the biggest players in the stock market. Also, it's been capturing headlines in the news every single month, it seems like. So most investors, even if you're not an investor, you likely know what Nvidia is doing here. So we're going to go through a lot of technical analysis here to show you some very easy identifiable areas to give you insight as to about what's going to happen. All right. So first off, weekly chart of Nvidia. What's right here? We've got a topping tail on the chart. This topping tail has not been negated by the following 3 weeks of trading action. So this topping tail is still in effect. Whenever you get a topping tail at the top of a chart, that is extremely bearish. And look at price action reacting at least today. Now we go into the daily chart. Okay, so we've got this trend line. Notice how this trend line cuts through the low of this pivot, but it also captures the pivot low from here, and then it captures the pivot and pierce here. But notice how we have now since broken that trend line and price has now changed. It's changed behavior, right? We're starting to go down rather than up. All right, so that distinguishes this trend has now been broken. So if I move this trend line out slightly so that this trend line is now the pivot low of this pivot that occurred back here April 21st, you can see now we have an area of support that likely will give Nvidia a small bounce. Tomorrow, that level is going to be 174.40. So be watching 174.40, only $1.20 away from the closing price today if we do get a bounce there. Or If we do gap over that trend line, that could open the floodgates for higher selling. So tomorrow, be paying close attention, especially if you're a bull in Nvidia. You want to see support get caught here right at the 174 and change level. That could actually propel the stock up to the resistance that it was tagging just this last week, right here on the top end of the parallel channel, right at 186.53. It all depends on the sentiment and how far the selling pressure will last. But one thing's for sure, if Nvidia starts falling, the rest of the markets are going to start falling. Now, there'll be some small cap stocks that do get lifted up, but Nvidia is such a behemoth. When it starts falling, the rest of the tide will start going down too. Next up, Symbotic. Now, Symbotic, as you see, it's had an incredible run. Plus, it's had an inverse head and shoulders pattern, already hit its measured move. Incredible move for any investors that were able to spot this and capitalize on this momentum. Now it's all being sucked out, right? You can see this move, huge move up, all the way up to the all-time highs. Now scroll back out on the charts. You can see we were just tagging this area of all-time high resistance. Once we did that, sharp move up. Notice what we have, a sharp move down. This is typically what happens. I've been saying this for a long time. And when we're right here during that sharp move up, it's hard for you to believe because the markets, no matter if it's good news or bad news, it doesn't matter what it is. The markets just find a way to continue going up until reality sets in and people start taking profits. Then the panic sets in too, because these levels are now being broken. So watch the next level of support, 45.88, followed by $40.24. Notice how 40.24 collectively comes right where all these other pivots are, which would be a good buying opportunity to get into for a swing trade. Now, that's just one of the potential entries right here, 40.24. The big one would be down here on the declining neckline of this previous inverse head and shoulders pattern, currently right around $30. So be watching. If you are planning on trading Symbotic, be prepared that it could go down to 30 and calculate your ads appropriately. Next up, MSTR. MSTR too, breaking a significant trend line right here on the charts. You notice from this pivot high back in November of 2024, kept price down for the longest time. Price broke out, confirmed, retested, bounced off of that retest. Beautiful bounce there in MSTR. Since then, came back down, consolidated a couple days, and then plunged right through. So that tells me there could be more selling pressure closing down here at the lows of the day in the coming days for MSTR. Most importantly, it's back within this wedge pattern. So it's going to have to fight to get back above. Support down here on the bottom, 317.48, followed by a pierce of $300 at 283.29. But on the upside, you have to be watching this declining trend line for any bulls at 358.09. Be watching that. If we start trading comfortably above it, then we can just X this out as a simple little bear trap scenario with price moving down lower. But ultimately, this isn't a good sign for MSTR. We'll see where price action takes us tomorrow. Next up, Hood. You can see here on Hood, a big sell candle here. Now notice we had a very similar sell candle over here too, but it didn't fully materialize. Now notice also right here, we had an all-time high here on July 18th. Price retreated, caught support on this inclining trend line. Notice it just pierced that inclining trend line created from pivot to pivot. Then price rebounded nicely, making a new high and then a topping tail at the top of the charts. A big bear or bull trap scenario where we made new highs looking like we were about to start marching up to this inclining trend line, but nope, not so fast, got sold off. And another fake out today with price gapping up today and then selling off hard. Now, one thing, we did not touch this inclining trend line. Watch price action tomorrow. If we gap under it, or if we continue trading above it, in essence, is in a small wedge pattern from the previous all-time highs and up into this inclining trend line. Watch this price action because as soon as it does break, we're headed to 96.92 pretty quick, then followed by a more decent level of support at $84.07. Next up, we've got AVGO. AVGO, as you see here, starting to break trend. Yesterday, we broke trend by gapping down, selling off lower, but we ultimately closed right back up on that trend line. Today had a great chance of saving itself and remaining in the trend, but the market selling was too tough and the price action pulled down on AVGO. Now, this has been an incredible mover since April, so there will be a lot of buy the dippers here in AVGO. First spot to watch for a minor bounce is right here, 284.83, followed by 278.96, basically 279. That zone there should produce a small short-term bounce on AVGO. Longer-term bounce level is going to be down here under 250. I know that seems hard to believe and hard to fathom, but that's where a level would be where I would be more interested in getting into AVGO. Next up, and lastly, Netflix. We see here on the chart, Netflix did fail from holding price above this inclining parallel channel. Now, Netflix was one of those stocks that just really defied gravity, didn't really pull back much. There was a lot of bad news hitting other stocks, but then Netflix was the recipient of all of those investors exiting those other stocks, and Netflix just kept floating. So that happened all up until the end of June, where price started faltering right here. And what do we potentially have on the horizon? Now, keep in mind, we're a couple steps away from this, but I was noticing this today and I wanted to bring it to your attention. Notice this trend line that I'm drawing right here. You can see here from the potential pattern, we've got a left shoulder, a head right here, and a right shoulder. Now, the right shoulder has not come down to this trend line. And if it does, we could be having some serious downside movement on Netflix in the near future. If this head and shoulders pattern plays out, we're talking about a move down here to $945. This is something major to keep on the radar. Be expecting some moves on Netflix, but most importantly, if you're a bull, you need to be prepared for price action potentially going down if it breaks this inclining trend line roughly at $1,156. All right, guys. Tons of great info to go over today. I love days like this because I can bring you so much data and information, get you guys prepared for new levels that could be hit in the near future. You can take some scalp opportunities off of those, or if you're already long, you can have an exit strategy and plan, and also plan to get back into some of these trades. So ultimately, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Can't wait to bring you guys some more information later this week. Seems like we will have the volatility, and I look forward to it. See you guys on the charts tomorrow. Till then, take care.